Now we're going to have a very enlightening segment, I believe, or I hope, for a lot of you. It's something that a lot of us have heard about, talked about, supposed to know about, but we keep harping on the message. We're talking about sickle cell, and we have a special warrior joining us virtually, Ibukunoluwa Imabong Abasi Ajayi. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone. I'm fine, thank you.
Thanks a lot for joining us. Now, please, I hope you're enjoying your weekend. And a lot of people think they know a lot, about the sickle cell story. And, we live in a country where it's prevalent, whether we like it or not. But just share a bit of your background with us on your story and, how you've gotten to where you are today.
Well, I think I've grown up with sickle cell on autopilot because it's not something that at some point in my life I was sat down and said, oh, you have sickle cell. I was diagnosed at 8 months, I think, according to my parents. And since then, I've been living with sickle cell. I'm 30 years old now. And, we're still pushing and trying to live our best life, basically. So I've always known that I have sickle cell, and I've always, lived with it, basically, and come to terms with the fact that this is my, story, this is my life. And, I just have to take it in grand stride and try to create as much awareness as possible and help other people, who are also living with sickle cell, come to terms with their life, their story, and be proud of who they are.
Very good to hear that. But maybe 30 years ago to now, I want to believe a lot has happened in that space where people are a little more aware. Is that a fair way to put it? That Nigerians or human beings as a whole understand more, what this entails, how to walk around it, how to avoid it, how to treat it, how to handle it? Are we at a place where, from 30 years ago to now, that you believe that, there's a lot of progress that has been done or made?
Well, I'd say worldwide, basically globally, yes, there's been a lot of progress. There's been a lot of information, awareness. There's been a lot of progress in terms of medication, in terms of looking for, cures and things like that. But back home here in Nigeria, it still feels like we're back in, in 1993 when I was born, honestly, because the stigmatization, discrimination, the lack of awareness is not any better. Let me say it like that. A lot of NGOs are doing their best to create awareness. A lot of individuals like myself, are advocating for sickle cell awareness every day. But you still find that Nigeria has the highest amount of children being born with sickle cell in the whole world. So yes, I don't think that enough is being done about sickle cell awareness in our country, Nigeria.
Is that an education thing? I don't think it's a coincidence that we also have the highest number of out-of-school children, so it means education, I'm sure, plays a part in this awareness, people understanding what leads to you having a baby, that has sickle cell. Do you think that's a big fundamental part? Is it also an indictment on the healthcare sector, maybe, or not doing enough for that?
Yes, like you said, education plays a very major role. I have always said, and I believe that we have come to a place where sickle cell needs to be taught in schools. Genotype cross-matching needs to be taught properly in schools so that people understand it from, an early age, and they're able to make better choices, and I believe that just the way, back when I was in primary and secondary school, we used to have I think first aid clubs and things like that. We need to have maybe health clubs, where we discuss things like sickle cell and other genetic diseases, and, let people learn from a young age. And then also, I think that if our genotypes, and blood types were also included in our national identity, maybe it will make a difference in terms of people being born with sickle cell. Because you hear a lot of people say, oh, I didn't find out about my genotype until I was married or until I had a baby. And I'm like, why are you just finding out about your genotype now? These are things that you should know, it should be part of you, it's your identity. So why don't you know it? So education, yes, definitely plays a major role. Maybe we need to include topics like sickle cell in our biology classes in schools, so that it sinks in, to be honest, because it's the amount of DMs I get on social media, the amount of questions I get, and over things that, people should know is ridiculous, to be very honest. And I feel like we need to do more in terms of education, grassroots education, also going into, the streets and talking about these things, making this awareness done in like different languages, so that people can understand it. Say it in Hausa, say it in Igbo, say it in Yoruba, say it in Efik, say it in all the languages, take it into, the states, the towns, so that people can learn. Because yes, we can speak it in English and educated people can understand, but when you go into the markets and you ask them what is sickle cell, they don't really know. And most of them have children at home that have sickle cell, but they just say, oh, these children are always sick. I got a message, I think a year ago, from another sickle cell warrior who said, oh, her parents, before they found out she was sickle cell, took her somewhere where they used to beat the sickness out of her. And I'm like, in this 21st century, before they found out that she actually had sickle cell, and even after, they still said, it's some kind of spirit. So I feel like the more awareness, the more education, the more people will be able to handle these things and understand what sickle cell really is and how to avoid having kids with sickle cell.
I mean, it is unbelievable that we're hearing stories like that in 2024. But you mentioned something earlier that I want to touch on. You talked about stigmatization, and I want to maybe get a little personal with you. When you say stigmatization, with Nigeria in particular, what are you talking about? With like work, for example, employment, relationships, what comes up when people find out, your condition?
Yeah, I was going to definitely break it down, but I'm glad you brought up work and relationships. So when you get a job, for example, I'll use myself as an example. I think in 2017, I got a job and I went for the interview. Interview was great. And, I was told to come back for my employment letter. And the day I got there, they were like, oh, you have to do some medicals first. And then we went to do the medical. I obliged, definitely. But when I got home, I just knew that I wasn't going to hear from them again, because it wasn't the first time that it was happening, but apparently, they hadn't seen the test results before they asked me to come back. It was on the day they asked me to come back, to finalize everything, that they actually got the test results back from the hospital. And then the lady, the HR manager, sat me down. She was like, oh, how often do you have crisis in a year? And I'm looking at her and I'm like, I haven't received my calendar from heaven for this year, so I really don't know how often I'm going to have crisis this year, but let's see how it goes, And you can see how skeptical she is, how worried she is in her face. And she's like, I'll get back to you, And it was later, I got the job, but it was later I found out that another board member, in the company had to speak on my behalf and say, oh, she has friends that have sickle cell. They're really smart. They're really hardworking. They should give me a chance, and it's things like that. Most times you go for interviews, the minute they mention medical, just know that they're not going to call you back, because they just believe that, let me speak it in pidgin, they don't want somebody to come and die in their company. They just have this belief, that hard work is going to kill us. And the funny thing is, I went to school, primary, university, I graduated, I didn't die, but it's when I come to work in your office that I would have come and die. When it's time for me to reap the fruits of my labor, and then when it comes to relationships, I was with someone some time back, because I've been single for a long time, and that was my last relationship. And he told me, he said, oh, his mom woke him up at, I think, 3 a.m. and she was crying. And she's like, oh, she doesn't want her son to end up with someone that has sickle cell. What if I die? And things like that. And I'm like, why are people really wishing us to die so much? Because I really don't understand it. And it's not like, I feel like people still see us with the eyes of the Abiku and the Obanjis, of years ago. And I feel like healthcare has improved to the point where, you can live a very good life as long as you're taking care of yourself, you're taking your routine meds, and you know how to manage your triggers. So yeah, these are some of the things that you see. Some people say, oh, like I have a video on TikTok that went viral, and some people were like, oh, you say you're not weak, but if I push you now, you will fall. If you push anybody, they will fall. Literally, like, I don't understand, or they just say silly things like, oh, your eyes are so yellow, or you look like you have kwashiorkor. The way sickle cell warriors used to look years ago is different from how we look now. So because I think then there wasn't a lot of, medications and treatments that you could take, to help you look your best. So people were having crisis and deteriorating and looking, in a certain way. But I always tell people, sickle cell doesn't have a look, doesn't have a face. Anybody, it's your sister, it's your brother. This is us. This is we. We're human beings just like you. So people should stop discriminating and thinking, oh, or some people say, oh, they can't bear children. That's why, they don't want their family members to marry someone that has sickle cell. Newsflash, I have so many warriors with kids, and multiple, when I say kids, I mean multiple children, and they're doing fine. So all this stereotype and stigmatization, honestly, it needs to stop, because it's beginning to sound ridiculous, to be honest. in fact, I've been working since I graduated from school, and I haven't died in anybody's office.
And you look great, and this is not me trying to flatter you in any way. You actually look amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, it's Sickle Cell Week, I believe. What's the message you would like to pass across as briefly as you can as we celebrate Sickle Cell Week?
I think the message I'll just try to pass across is, honestly, let people show kindness. Kindness is key, because I feel like just because somebody has a certain ailment doesn't mean that, they're any different from you. The truth is that, because somebody dropped a comment on my Instagram recently, and the person was like, "Oh, why are you so proud of this? Do you know that you can die at any time?" And I'm like, anybody can die at any time. We're all in the hands of God. So you cannot say that because somebody has this disease, they're going to die before you. Let's just be kind. And to other sickle cell warriors out there, you need to own your narrative. I'm glad that someone like Adekunle Gold has given so many people, the boldness to come out and own that they have sickle cell. Own your narrative, be proud. Your people say it's the way you carry your people or something. That's how other people carry it with you. If you're proud of who you are, nobody will be able to shame you or put you down, because sickle cell is not a thing of shame. And I feel like to the general entire public, we all need to, put hands on deck to be more, involved in creating sickle cell awareness, because we can't continue to have the highest number of children being born. Check your genotypes, know what your genotype is, and, marry, someone that's compatible with your genotype, or get genetic counseling. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibukunoluwa, for being very enlightening today, and wish you all the very best in your work and your relationship life going forward. And as we celebrate Sickle Cell Week, I'd also like to send a special shout out to my friend Tosin Buckner, who passed away a couple of years ago, and may she continue to rest in peace.